Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle with Mark Stallard and myself. Thank you for joining us. On tonight's show, 8 games and counting. The promotion run intensifies, but I think we detect a pretty broad church of views among the flock, some relishing the run in, others perhaps a tad more pessimistic, to put it politely. We'll dissect and discuss your views on automatics, the playoffs, or heaven forbid, totally missing out together. Interestingly, I spoke, by means of context, I spoke to a Bradford City season ticket holder yesterday. He refed our Sunday morning game. He dislikes the football that Bradford are playing, but thinks they will go up in the automatics. With that in mind, would you want Notts to adapt maybe just a little bit in the last 8 games, or do we stick to purist data-driven principles? It's now 1 win in 5, 9 points, 10 points on the last 10 games. Let us know what you think. Half full, half empty. Let's see where we get to. Thank you as always to our sponsors, JH Accountants and the Big Shed at the Trent Navigation. Their support is invaluable in helping us achieve what we achieve on this show. Read out some thoughts and comments coming shortly. But first, yes, I want to get this out of the way. An apology. Now, I've been in contact with former first team coach Matt Saunders. He dropped me a note after the show a fortnight ago. I inadvertently read out a message from a member of our flock in which the phrase was used, sacked, in connection to his and his brother's departure from the club. Now, that clearly was not the case. Shouldn't have read it out. Shouldn't have said it. Max just asked me very amicably to point out that he and his brother left the club by mutual consent to pursue other career opportunities. Happy to put the record straight. Hands up, won't happen again. We wish them all the best. Let's read a few messages. And I tell you what, I'm actually going to start with this one because obviously I cocked up a bit with Richard Montague. Now, I'm going to blame Jurgen Halligan for this if it's not right, even though I believe him to be right. Goalkeeper coming into the club. I think, Stel, you saw a fairly tall goalkeeper warming up after the game on Saturday. Now, I was aware on Friday of who it was, but I don't want to get pelters from people in case this isn't true. My understanding is that the goalkeeper is Tyler Miller. He is a free agent. He's been playing in Major League Soccer for several years now. He's been here with LAFC, with Seattle Sounders, most recently, it was with Minnesota, and most recently he was with DC United. My understanding, not so tying it all up, if not already, but Jurgen Halligan has got, rumour is Tyler Miller, American goalie, training with us. So if it is Tyler Miller, I got it right. If it's not Tyler Miller, blame Jurgen Halligan. All right, let's tidy that one up. Because Stella, I think spotter's badge, as I was getting back to my car in Snenton, I heard you talking about a mystery goalkeeper warming up after the game, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. After the game, obviously we have to stay on air doing the radio and whatever as everyone disappears. And usually, what you see is the subs and the lads that are named on the subs bench for both teams come out after the game and do some running, some sprints, just to get some sort of exercise in their legs and what have you. And then also, aside from that, on Saturday we saw a goal put up on the far side, in front of the Jimmy Cyril stand on the side of the pitch, and some goalkeeper work being done. And we're looking over, and obviously it's the far side of the pitch. We can't see who it was. We're going, well, that's unusual. That's unusual. Obviously couldn't tell who it was, but obviously with the rumours and whatever you're going round of Notts looking for a free agent keeper, that was obviously it. But, no idea who it was. But yeah, there was certainly a keeper being put through his paces after the game on Saturday.
Yeah, but 6'3", 6'4", former American under-21 international is Tyler. Let's read a few thoughts from the message boards before we dive into dissecting Saturday and our thoughts for the remainder of the season. Richard Terry, greetings from Woodborough Magpies. Never mind the football on Saturday. Thank Roger Holden for cutting the grass at Radcliffe-on-Trent Golf Club. Well done, Roger. Nigel, not quite a bit tangential, that one. Nigel Bosworth, evening, all. He's optimistic. I think the Notts have blown it now. PJ Defiance, if Notts don't get promoted, I would not blame Stewart, but would take a look at the brothers for not investing in better players in the January transfer window. David Dawes counters, if it was not for the brothers, we would not have a team to support. I think that those kind of three first messages kind of encapsulate there's a bit of a split at the minute among our fan base as to exactly where we are. As always, let's be respectful and professional on tonight's show. Evening from Jurgen Halligan and Graham Oates and Stephen Newton and Essie and Ian Cooksey and Ian Haywood. Adam Kent, well done to Sam Slocum and the defence on Saturday, keeping the clean sheet. Unfortunately, our reliance on wing backs that aren't quite ready yet limits what happens going forward. PJ Defiance, now I think he's a glass full and a half here. Thoughts on if Reading get expelled from League One could mean a possible 5 go up from League Two. There you go. Evening all from Bud Chatwin. Promotion is still very much in our hands. Evening from Richard Elvian and from Richard Hawksworth. The social media, then he uses a word I can't say on here anymore. I've banned myself from saying it. But the social media ends have been in fine form over the last few days. Great to watch. Is there more money to make in the playoffs than automatic, says Royston? Well, every club owner will tell you, if you can guarantee going up through the playoffs, take it rather than automatics. But no such thing as the guarantee, is there? Could we recall Adam Chickson, says Adam Kent. Cerula, better than Chickson, says Richard Elvian. Jody Jones is back on the grass, says Richard Elvian. Gazali, I'm staggered to say this, but we're all still in the race we are still in the race for the top 3. On current form, not such a good chance. Essie Kent asks who the standing keeper is, apparently training after the match. I think we've tidied that one up. Tyler Miller. If it's correct, that's down to me. If it's not Tyler Miller, blame Jurgen Halligan. Hello from Karen Knight, from John Gregory and Pythagorean. Evening from Stephen Shepherd as well. If we get a half-decent ref on Saturday, we could actually win, says Tim Watchorn. Still can't understand why the Saunders brothers haven't been replaced, says Pythagorean. And so we go on. Still, I think it's fair to say, look, you look at the league table, before a ball was kicked, we're 6th. It's reasonable. Yeah, it's not brilliant. It's not terrible. We're in, I think, as you say, we have as much chance in terms of points differential just about of going up automatically as we do of missing out on the playoffs. Where are we with 8 games to go? I mean, are you excited? Are you optimistic? Are you a tad nervous? What's your take on it all?
Yeah, I'm a bit of all of them, and I'm sure everybody is. You know,
the voice of sitting on the fence.
Yeah, absolutely. We are sick. We are where we are, and we all know where that is. We're 2 points out of automatic. Now, that's not because of the form that we're in necessarily. Obviously, the points that we've accumulated over the season, that's why we're there. But the form, everybody knows the form is not what we need it to be, coming down the stretch. But we are where we are because other teams are in similar sort of form, similar sort of runs of form. Walsall not 1 in 6, top of the table. Their 12-point lead, whatever it was, not so many weeks ago, all but disappeared. Bradford hard on the heels. Yeah, just teams falling over themselves to sort of get in position, and then it's almost like realisation hits, and then it's wobble. Let's have a wobble. Colchester with a team in form. Bradford beat them convincingly at the weekend. And so it will go on between now and the end of the season, and not many games left, obviously. But them teams are all playing each other, and they're all going to drop points at times, and we're not going to be able to predict who's going to beat who. I've made a note just for this weekend alone: first v third, fourth v ninth, seventh v eighth, and that's not obviously at Newport. So not all the teams around us are going to be picking up points. Some will, obviously, but some will be dropping points. And so it will be between now and the end of the season. Notts have got to focus on turning their form round. Not that it's horrific, but it's stuttering. And I think we all know they're not getting the points. 1 point out the last 3 home games, nowhere near good enough return for us. So I think, ironically, having an away game might just work in Notts' favour this season. We've scored more on the road. Yes, we've conceded more on the road, but I don't know if we're a little bit better suited to playing away from home with how we are this season. We're a bit more, we're a bit more solid, as a team, not quite as spectacular going forward. And so I think it suits us having a team that will be expected to make a bit of the play. I think we've found it hard this season to have that real killer instinct, real cutting edge in attacking positions against teams that sit deep against us, get bodies behind the ball, make it difficult. So, look, what will happen over the next 8 games, nobody knows. But it's exciting, it's nerve-wracking, and I think it's a coin toss as equal as 50-50 as whether we get automatic promotion or missing out the playoffs completely. And you might say, well, the probability is we'll end up in the playoffs, but there's as much chance of us missing out as there is getting automatic. There's a genuine chance of automatic. We are 2 points from it at the minute. Yes, I know Port Vale and Doncaster have got a game in hand. But as I say, teams in and around and above us and below us, they're all playing each other, just like we've got to play a couple of them. So anything can happen. It is exciting, nerve-wracking, and it's very Notts, isn't it? Very, very Notts to do it like this. But somehow, with the form that we've in and the points that have been dropped over the last 8 or 9 games, we're still right up there in the mix. We could have been chasing. We could have been looking up from below, if other results had gone differently. So we've got to be thankful we're in the mix and we've got a chance. Now we've got to improve that form, or certainly improve the results. For 8 games, it's possible. Anything's possible. They've done it before this season. They've got to do it again now when it really matters.
Yeah, actually, some good comments here on the message board, which I'm going to read a selection of now in terms of how you view our current position. Eddie Clark says, "Evening. Think the top three. Think the possibility of the top three is a slim shot now. Wouldn't back us in the playoffs on current form, but we always live in hope." Martin Shippey says, "I keep thinking after each loss or draw that automatic promotion has gone. But after all has been said and done, we're only 2 points adrift of the autos." Echoing your thoughts there, Stell. Ian McQuillan, "I don't care how we win, boys. I loved the Warnock days." Ian Cooks, he says, "I watched Bradford on Saturday afternoon. The attacking football they played was on another level to what we played the last couple of months." What else have we got? Duncan Comrie, "We would all have taken being 2 points off automatic promotion with 8 games to go. Stick to what got us here and be positive." Mark Williams, "Push is coming to shove for Notts, running out of games and need a win to at least give the whole place a boost. A decent ref would help, clearly. I've gone past dissecting it all," says Chris Gosling, "judging it game by game only. I thought we deserved to win Saturday without being great. I thought there was a collective effort second half to try and win." Kay says, "I think it's obvious from the comments that I've been reading. A lot of our supporters are calling our football boring. I, for one, couldn't agree more. Can't remember the last time I enjoyed a home game. Current form is the issue," says Richard Elvian. "When have Notts ever done it the easy way?" said Adam Cipriano. "Please still believe." But Chatwin tries to sum it all up in 3 words: lack, killer, instinct. Get Jody back to kick the players up the backside. Chris Gosling says, Doncaster, of course, is our final game of the season at home at Meadow Lane on May the 3rd. There's a possibility we could play Doncaster 3 times in 10 days. That, of course, if both of us were in the playoffs and we drew each other. Lippy Jane, can we stop the refs being in the same colour as the away goalie strip? FA need to sort it out. That used to be a bit of a rule, if I remember rightly. Clearly, the refs, either it's not a rule anymore or the refs don't seem to be enforcing it. If Vale win tomorrow, we'll be 5 points off autos, says Richard Elvian. And as Dale Pikett points out, Port Vale's game in hand is against Barrow. Just a thought, says Andrew Rayson. Would signing Miller be even possible, given that he's American and we've already got the maximum amount of 2 foreigners in Traore and Jatta? Not sure all of those assumptions are quite right, Andrew. I know the whole issue of permits, work permits, seems to be a movable feast. I believe he is able to sign for us if not wish to complete everything. As I say, I'll hedge my bets. Richard Montague, lesson learned. Chris Gosling, the ref on Saturday may as well have worn a Crew shirt. Good line, Chris. Good line. Gazali, Jatta on the Gambia bench, hoping he stays there. No more injuries, please. Still, let's just take let's talk goalkeepers, because obviously we've got the Tyler Miller situation. Sam Slocum's come in. He's done pretty well, hasn't he? I mean, goalkeepers can't do much more than keep a clean sheet, irrespective of how much they have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Sam's done nothing wrong. He's done absolutely fine. Didn't have anything really too testing to do on Saturday. But he's done fine since he's come in. 2 clean sheets. Made some saves at Grimsby. And, he can't be expected to do much more. So, whether they do bring in another keeper or not for the final 8 games, then we'll wait and see whether they do get it across the line. But no, in terms of Sam, like I say, he's shown his experience. I think come in and adapted coolly, calmly, not upset the apple cart in terms of anything defensively. Aided by a much improved defence in front of him this season than he had last season. But yeah, we're more solid, and Sam's come in and not let anybody down. Done perfectly well, and they deserve to stay in the team, really.
Yes, I think indeed he does, because it can't be easy. I mean, clearly he has a lot of experience on his side, but to have not played a senior game for such a long time, and in of all positions a goalkeeper, where, let's be honest, he'd be aware of the chatter that's been going on, wouldn't, I don't think, have been that easy coming into this situation.
No, absolutely. It doesn't matter what age you are. You're aware of the mood around. Like I said, because you're your own biggest critic. You don't need to hear chatter particularly to know what the mood music is, if you like. So, to be a goalkeeper for all the years that Sam has, he'll have gone through spells. Every mistake, all of a sudden, that's it. Oh, he's useless. All that sort of thing. It's water off a duck's back at times. All you need to worry about is your own professional standards, training well, and when you get asked to perform, then come in and perform. That's exactly what he's done. But you're right, it isn't easy when, and like I said, I'm speaking with no experience, where I've sat on a bench for most of the season, and then suddenly had to come in and play, a run of games. But he's done it brilliantly, no surprise. He's not let anybody down at all, and didn't expect him to as well. So, that's the value of having an experienced number 2, if you like.
Yes, and we shall see whether he continues to play. We're not totally sure how long Bass is out for, other than I think the phrase that was used by the head coach last week was for a while. So I don't think back. He's going to be coming back anytime, particularly soon. Greta Maxwell, who likes my shirt collection. I have a signed pair of Susan Boyle Jim Wall cycling shorts. Crikey. I have 45 quid in my Asda rewards, and my offer for jet washing your wheelie bins until May stands for the Jatta shirt hanging up. Yeah, that's one of his match worn ones. Yeah, the Jatta one. Yeah, you're not having it. All right. But keep trying. This has caused a bit of debate. The Bradford game to the Thursday instead of Good Friday. Andy Eason moving the Bradford game to Thursday ahead of Good Friday has really angered many of us who were but now aren't travelling. Chris Gosling says, Andy, I'm still seething about that. Moving games to a Thursday night, adds Chris, is the most heinous crime committed in football. Yeah, I mean, I think it's frustrating just to tidy this up. The Football League made a big song and a dance at the start of the season saying that they were going to communicate games being moved from a Saturday slot to either the earlier kickoff, Thursday night, Sunday, wherever they end up going. They were going to do them very early. But what they did, of course, they did them in tranches. So once you get to the last month of the season, all bets are basically off because the broadcasters want to choose games that are appropriate to a promotion or a relegation issue. So hence why this is a shorter period of time. And I think, as I've mentioned before, look, I see both sides of the fence. I agree with you. Thursday night, horrible night for a game of football. But ultimately, the Football League didn't have to agree to this deal, and they could have said, we will not have any Thursday night games. We want 80% of all games to stay at 3:00 on a Saturday, to which Sky would have said, well, you're not going to get X million, you're going to get X minus Y million. And then the club would say, oh, I know, we want a bit more money. So it has been signed off by the clubs, including this sort of shorter period for the final few games. So I see both sides, but I do think that Thursday one does feel like a step too far still when you move it from, in this case it was Good Friday, but when you have, I think Port Vale was moved to a Thursday rather than a Saturday, wasn't it? It feels like completely wrong, and I get why fans are so upset about it.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, what the solution is, I don't know. I think that it's just the lateness of it, isn't it? And I know we're coming down, and they have to wait to see who's, what games are going to be pivotal, maybe to promotion and playoffs and what have you. But surely, as a duty of care to fans who will have booked, and let's not forget, it was scheduled for Good Friday anyway, so people would have made a weekend of that, or I'm not saying they made a weekend of it in Bradford necessarily, but
it's better than Blackpool in it still, marginally.
It is. I tell you what it is. You get a good curry in Bradford. I'll tell you that for nothing. No, but what it is, people will have booked hotels, and things like that. They'd have made their travel arrangements because it is a Good Friday. It's not a work day. It's a bank holiday weekend, if you like, Easter weekend. And then to what are we? 3 weeks when it was announced, 3 weeks prior, 2 weeks prior, to then go, oh no, now we're changing it, we're bringing it forward, to the night before, which, yeah, as a standalone Thursday night, it's a horrible night for football. It used to be about the only night that never had any football on it. I know now with millions of sports channels and football everywhere that they now play on a Thursday, but it's not a good night. So we had the Port Vale game on a Thursday, and then Grimsby early on in the season, but it just no, it's not great. But I think it's just, for me, it's just the lateness of the goal. I think they've got to try and find a way to at least give fans enough weeks' notice, or even publicly announce that the TV games will be announced on X date.
Yeah.
So until then, you're sort of you running the risk of the game being moved before you make arrangements. That the bit for me, it's I'm looking out for game changing. I'm not sure when they're announcing them. They announce them a month by month. Do they announce them week by week? Come the back end of the season, and then all of a sudden you'll hear something put out by the club or on social media. saying, "Oh, Notts Games, Notts Games been moved." No, I know nothing about it. Didn't even know it was being considered to be moved. Didn't know when the decisions were going to be made for it to be moved or what games were being moved. And that, obviously we're frustrated at Notts. That is the same for whatever club you follow. So again, it's just another example, isn't it, of where fans are taken for granted. And you're right, we need the money from the broadcasters, obviously, but you'd like to think there'd be some way of doing it that gives a bit of a fair and equitable notice to fans, and it doesn't make them feel like they're taken for granted. And well, tough luck, for fans. It's not a good look, is it, from the league and from Sky? So surely something can be done in a PR kind of way going forward to prevent late changes like that, because it costs people money, and people are all fans of the lifeblood of the game.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you raise about advanced communication. I think if memory serves, in August, Football League and Sky made a big play that all matches up till Christmas would be decided before the start of the season. I think I'm right in saying that. So you kind of knew after August, whatever it was, all the way up to the end of December, them games aren't going to be moved. Then I think there was something where the next 2 months would be done. And then my understanding is Sky have always reserved this kind of last month of the season are late shouts, And I think if you'd kind of communicated that our fixtures in April are all liable to potentially be, broadcast and the date moved, these we will know for definite by March the 8th or whatever the date is. You would at least forewarn fans of buying pre-booked train tickets, because if you buy them 2 or 3 months out, they're massively cheaper. Yeah, clearly it's but you don't get any money back. So if you buy a ticket for a Friday and it's on a Thursday, you've lost your money on a train ticket, and likewise hotels. So possibly there's something that could be done there. Uh, um, but yeah, I mean, Stephen Shepherd's 2-for-1 on Curry's in Bradford on Thursdays. Fill your boots. What about 15 to 20 minutes of Junior Marias on Saturday, just to see if he'd had the key to unlock the deadlock against Crewe, says Andy Eason. Dale Pikett, every EFL club have sold their soul to the devil when they signed the new TV deal. However, I'd be interested to know, Dale, do you, if you don't go to an away game, still watch the game on a dodgy stick or via Sky or whatever else, or do you not watch it on principle? What else have we got? Lee Hughes says Bud Chapman has been seen around Nottingham. Reckon he could be the new keeper we're all talking about. No one will try and get past him. Leads us neatly on to, I think it's the first time we've actually, since we've formally announced it, that we've had a show. Lee Hughes live, Big Shed, Trent Navigation. Thursday night, May the 1st. So that's 2 days before the final home game of the season against Doncaster. Tickets only a tenner. We've got a new ticket portal on magpiecirclepodcast.com. The details are all online. Selling very quickly, as you would expect for Lee. You'll be there, Stel. Strikers Union, I'm sure, on that one. Lee's looking forward to it. You may have seen a viral video he's done of doing the Hughesy outside the Houses of Parliament. So we'll get Lee on in a show in the countdown to the event. But dive in quick to get your tickets. If it's anything like Martin Allen, Stel, there'll be a few anecdotes and stories coming out the woodwork.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think any of them ever made it onto YouTube.
No.
Did you say that there was no highlights ever came out that could be repeatable? I'm sure Hughes would be similar, but warmer. It's got to be warmer. May the 1st. It was Arctic conditions for Martin Allen, for Mad Dog. So surely for Hughesy, the sun might even come out. It'll be a lovely night. Should be a good one. I'm sure Hughesy's got some great stories to tell. And hopefully he could be a lucky mascot for us prior to the Doncaster game.
Absolutely. Would you have played against him? Did your career pass at all or not?
Yeah, I possibly did play against him at some point. I played with him in a charity match after we both retired, packed up once. But yeah, I think we probably played against each other in 1 or 2 games. But quality striker, as everybody knows, good lad, and yeah, he'll have some good stories. It'll be an interesting night, lively.
Yes, a real character. Tales of Sven. Well, there's enough on their own just with Sven, isn't there? But that whole Munto season, I suspect he might be marginally less complimentary about Paul Ince and in particular Alex Ray. I suspect there'll be some stories about clashes, shall we say, among many others. Okay. Let's get back to contemporary action on and off the pitch. Um, Newport away. Newport away. Bodies on the line job, I thought, was typified by their performance. I don't even want to say they were limited because that sounds disrespectful to them. But for me, they were an example of everything on the line. And if memory serves, no end of blocks, and they got away with a 0-0 Saturday. Now, before you never say it's a must-win game, do you, Stella? Very rarely. But I think you're of an opinion this is a particularly important fixture from which to get 3 points. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, I don't say must-win games are if it's the last game of the season and you need 3 points to stay up or to go up, or So but it is massively important. I think, given the form that we've been in, and again, I reiterate the bit about being away from home, and I think that's a good point. You sort of led on. Their performance at Meadow Lane was, like I say, bodies on the line. That they were determined to come and not give anything, not be broken down easily, and they got a point. It was I say drab 0-0. It was a 0-0, wasn't it? They got the point they sort of came for, and Notts couldn't break them down. I think at their place, I don't think their fans would tolerate them doing
No.
that. So therefore, they have to come out. Now, that was probably, I mean, we didn't have too much, but that was probably Stewart's best performance since he came in last season down at Newport. When we won 3-1 down at their place, played really well on the night, and fully deserved the win. So I do think at the minute, the way Notts are playing, the way that they are set up, I think it suits us to be away from home, which sounds a bit counterintuitive because of all the control and possession that we like to have at home. But I think just at the minute, when confidence isn't quite flowing, momentum isn't quite there, I think playing away from home against a team that they're expected to come out and get on the front foot a little bit, and thereby taking a bit of a risk, leaving a little bit of space, that Notts can exploit that if they play well, and that could work in their favour. And again, you just need to get a little bit of something going to get momentum. So it could be the perfect game. Not saying it's going to be, but it could well be an ideal game for Notts to go down to. And let's say one thing we have to say, I think, is Newport's pitch is far better now than it ever used to be. So they'll be able to pass the ball.
Yeah, Ian Cooksey actually makes that point. Newport's pitch will suit Notts. It's one of the best, if not the best, in the division. And that's, from a few years ago, it was the right cabbage patch, wasn't it, when the Rugby League on? But they've invested a lot of money into it, and it was in very good condition when we went down there before, if I recall. Dale Pikett gives us a bit of stats. Newport home form is the 6th best in the league, and their away form is 23rd, i.e. second worst in the league. And Dale just wishes to make it clear that he doesn't rely on Sky Television to watch Notts away from home. He travels to the games. Good. Derek Flowers, is the Martin Allen available to watch anywhere? I had a ticket, but I was in hospital. Sadly not, Derek. I think they'd shut us down if we broadcast that. But so make sure that you're fit and healthy. In fact, I know you are, because you bought a shed load of tickets for this one. I was checking who'd been buying the tickets, and I saw you'd bought a little batch load. So well done. And I'm can confidently say you will enjoy the delights of Lee Hughes, and we may well have one or two special guests as well. Someone was asking about the Radi Avramovic. Yeah, I'm trying to tie up with Radi when he can fly in from Serbia. Most probably now, when it be a lot warmer than the Arctic, will be an August-September time one, when I'm hoping to have Brian Kilcline come back to Nottingham as well. So we would have 2 players from that 1980, 81, 82, 83 season, which for me, certainly of modern times, is the best Notts side we have had the good fortune to see. Sam Draper, if we had Jody, Didsey and Jatta available for 90% of games this season, I truly believe we would be top by now. Injuries have cost us big time. Yeah, that's an interesting point from Sam. And I think this polarizes quite a lot of views, Stel. And let's get your kind of definitive take on it. The counter argument to this would be, he says a bit mischievously, if we're waiting for a season in which we don't get any injuries, we have great January transfer windows, we have great refs all through the season, yeah. Ball possession stats translate to winning games, yeah, then I'll be dead, you'll be dead, and probably everyone on this flock will be dead before it actually translates directly to winning promotion. And I think if you look at the teams that go up this year, I still maintain every one of them would be able to give you some form of hard luck story. Bradford could clearly point to Andy Cook being out since January, and they've actually been better without Andy Cook than they were with him. I remember someone dug up a statistic with Manchester City when they were more likely to win when Sergio Aguero wasn't playing than when he was, because I don't know, he'd missed 4 games and they hadn't won 2 of them. But look, that I'm kind of like being obtuse there. How much do you think you can point to things like injuries, dodgy refereeing decisions? We've not yet got onto the penalties on Saturday. How much does that affect league position come the end of the season?
Well, look, it obviously affects it. Ifs, buts, and maybes, of course, don't mean a thing. But if we had have had Jody Jones for an extra, let's just say an extra 10 games, fully fit for 10 more games than he's played this season, you would think that would contribute, I don't know, another half a dozen points, maybe turning 3 draws into wins, with
Yeah.
assists or actual goals. And again, there's loads of them. But you're right. You're absolutely right. Every club can have a sort of sob story about injuries, and it's how you cope with that. It's building that squad, as we said, and they've done pretty well. They've done pretty well. We are 6th in the table. We're not talking about battling relegation or 8 games where there's nothing to play for, at the end of the season. So, while we're always looking at the reasons, the wherefore, you can't. I don't think anybody would say you take the better players out of any team and say, well, it shouldn't affect you. It's going to affect you. It's just how much. And that comes down to the squad you've built, the replacement players, and for that period of time when the key players are out missing. So, like I said, we've missed Didsey for a bit this season. Jatta's missed a few games this season, so. But it's been about the players that have come in when they've been missed. Have they done the job? They seem to have performed reasonably well. Jody's obviously the big one. He's been a massive, massive loss this season. But you're right. Bradford could say the same about Andy Cook. Walsall could complain about not injury, but losing Nathan Lowe in January. So every club will have their own, if only, if this had have happened, if this. So, yes, injuries, absolutely. Without the injuries that we've had, I would have expected to be higher up the table. But by how much so, it's not quantifiable. You can't. We can only surmise and guess and say, but it certainly has made a difference. But is it bad enough to give us an out, say at the end of the season, at the start of the season, we said if we're in the playoffs or looking for automatics, that's where we expect to be. And at the minute we are. But if we miss out, if we drop off 8 games to go, are them injuries enough to sort of be an excuse? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So I think these last 8 games are massive. But I don't expect us to drop away. But I'm just saying, I think you can absolutely blame injuries. And this is where I feel for Stewart a little bit because you're going into war without your best artillery. That's the way of looking at it. So sometimes that to me then leads on and leads on to the recruitment, if you like, the squad that's been built, which we've praised largely throughout the season. And there's been no reason to change that at the minute. But you look at January's transfer window, I think is something that, depending on what happens at the end of the season, but January's transfer window, I think will come under scrutiny for various reasons. You know, Dan Crowley going obviously was the big bit. Could we cope without him? And then you look at the players coming in. Now, again, we're setting aside the amount of money that changed hands, you know, the financial aspect of it, which has always got to be given some leeway to, because, you know, the club wouldn't have sold him if it wasn't for a fantastic amount of money that they deemed worthwhile. And again, I know he was pushing for it to go through anyway. But then you look at the recruitments. Have we actually found somebody who can win us games like Dan Crowley could? And at the minute, you've got to say no. You know, you've got to say no. Charlie Whittaker, Will Jarvis, Mike Traore may come into their own and hopefully starting Saturday. But, you know, at this moment, at this point, that's just a big question mark for me. The January dealings, if you like, that we weren't able to bring somebody in who's really able to ready-made come and affect games there and then, because Charlie Whittaker, Will Jarvis, Zach Johnson, defender, not similar sort of player, but all cutting their teeth in the game. Absolutely new to it. Young lads, potential, yes, but no CV behind them. You know, so you're not gambling, but you're hoping that they come in and be a quick fix. It's not absolutely, not blaming, not anything on them individually. I think they've done well in spells, but as a window, as a whole, did that strengthen us? I'm not sure it has. Like I say, and in years to come, we might go, Will Jarvis, Charlie Whittaker, what signings they were. My Traore, if he scores 25 goals next season, or indeed if he scores the goal that wins us promotion this season, or any of them do. But as we're sat here now, you'd have to say, for me, the January transfer window isn't looking overly successful, given that the injuries that we've got. So the two things sort of go hand in hand a little bit. But hopefully, like I say, we've got 8 games to turn that round and sit at the end of the season and go, why were we worried? January transfer window was fine. So, look, injuries have had a big impact, yes, but injuries are part of the game. Every club has them. And I think this season, for as long as I can remember, I've never known so many clubs in all levels, Premier League down, moaning about injuries, or having the amount of injuries that they've got. Why that is, I wouldn't know. Freak, I don't know. But, there's loads of clubs have injuries. It's how you deal with it. Like I say, Bradford are doing pretty well with injury to the main man. Not so doing pretty well with the number of injuries that they've had throughout the season. And say, but time will tell, and it's where we are in that table in May. That'll tell you that'll be the deciding factor on what we think about January and what we think about the signings and the sales of certain players.
Yeah, and I think that caveat you put in at the end kind of sums everything up. I mean, I think these are conversations that, clearly we'll have them, and we'll have them again in the next few weeks, I'm sure. The conversations are premature in a sense that you judge everything by where we are after that Doncaster game. Yeah, are we in the playoffs? Are we in automatics? Are we? Have we missed out? If we go up in automatics, right? There's nothing wrong with January transfer window, because one would assume that you judge it by how much you can impact on the final half of the season to get the club over the finishing line to promotion to League One. So whatever we may or may not say about what we think at the moment, ultimately the judgment deserves and should be made come the final game of the season / the playoffs. I think at the minute there is a view still among fans that we haven't necessarily maximised our chances of going up in either the last transfer window in January or this one. I mean, I don't want to go down the old chestnut of last year, but the reality was we were fifth when Luke Williams left us. Whatever the narrative is about underlying trends and everything, we were in a playoff position and we finished 14th. Now, a lot of that was because of the managerial change. I don't think January's signings helped make an immediate impact. And there's possibly a danger this year that the same might happen again. But I think it is too premature because you judge where we are. Never be afraid to put yourself under pressure. Let's see where we are in May, and that will tell us genuinely whether it was a good transfer window or not. But I kind of get at the minute. I think a lot of our supporters are quite nervous. I think they are perhaps a bit more pessimistic than you might think, given the position in the table, and they kind of want something to latch on to. But at the minute, having won 3 games on the bounce, we've now drawn 1, 2, drawn 3, lost 4. And we've not necessarily played too many of the top teams in that run of fixtures.
Yeah, look, I know fans are nervous. They football fans are always pessimistic generally. The Bradford fan who refereed your game yesterday, he must be the outlier, because usually fans, because they want it so much that some daren't get too carried away, too optimistic, because it doesn't happen to us. It doesn't. I daren't jinx it or whatever, and we'll always fear the worst. Some people will be like that, but football fans particularly, because it matters so much. So I absolutely get it, and you use the proof of your eyes. The form tells you at the minute we're unlikely to climb the table. We're more likely to try and prevent ourselves from sliding too far. We're not three wins on the spin. It's easy for the Bradford, or easier for the Bradford fan to be optimistic. They're 5 points clear, if you like, in the automatic places, aren't they? They're second, 5 points above third. I know that can change with the Port Vale game tomorrow night. But if we were second in the table, sort of a point behind Walsall or whatever it is, and then chasing, and in a good run of form, we'd all be more optimistic. So your mood changes. The only thing I would say, and I try to do myself, whether it comes from playing and being involved, is like we're saying there about the transfer window. You can give an opinion on things as they are now, but what I try not to do is that opinion is not fixed.
No.
It will change and can change, and not because he's swinging one way then the other. It will change on what I see. It will change on the data, the evidence, the games that we see. And I'm bringing it round to this because I see young lad Will Jarvis getting a fair bit of stick, isn't he? Coming for a fair bit of stick, of course, because he's not set the world alight since he's come in. He's been, I thought he had his best 45 minutes the second half Saturday. I thought he was arguably one of Not's better players, to be honest.
Did we hype him too much? Did we hype him too much or
whether
not?
we did, no.
He was presented as a ready-made to come in and make an immediate impact. And I know you're going to obviously portray positively and project positively, but so far it's clearly been a big step up for him to have expected him to make an immediate impact, which was kind of the way it was presented.
Yep. But that's the club presenting a player going, we've signed a player, 3.5-year contract, and we think he's, the 3.5-year contract is because over that time he's going to do well for us. There's a player to be developed. Wasn't necessarily, and certainly Will Jarvis, as far as I'm aware, I don't follow anybody on Twitter and all that. Will Jarvis hasn't come out blowing the horn and bigging himself up, so he deserves no backlash for that. That's not his fault. That's not his problem. And again, he's a young player cutting his teeth in the game. Not played many games at all. Got ability, and I know full well he's one of these players that plays in wide areas, and he's got a bit of a running style that looks like he's not giving it his all. But that's just his style, I think, of how he runs. I don't suggest he's not trying at all. I think he's just got one of them, what they call it, laconic type of sort of language styles or whatever. But that's just to sort of protect him, because we want these players to flourish. And between now and the end of the season, I want Will Jarvis and Charlie Whittaker and Mai Traore, whoever it might be, to go and get 8 goals, or go and set up 8 goals, or create match winners, or put one in the top corner. So at the minute, I might say, do you know what? It's not really happened quite how we would want it to. Anybody at the club, the fans, the owners, Richard Montague, when he was here, if he was responsible for bringing the players in, and everybody in between, Stuart, the players, everything. We all want them to do well. Now, if they do well in 8 games, we'll go, tell you what, visionary, that January transfer window. We just
Yeah,
didn't buy our own time. And that's not me saying, oh, we can't criticise. No, I'm saying here and now, January looks like it wasn't a good enough transfer window as we are here and now. But I'm hoping I'm changing my tune over the next 8 games. That's just the way it is. But you've got to be prepared to alter your view, not be so fixed that, oh, he's rubbish. He's rubbish. He's no good. He can't do this. Whether that's about a manager, a player, or anything. That, like I said, good players have bad games, and bad players, supposed bad players, have good games as well. It's never set in stone, but people's mindsets sometimes are set that they can't see what is actually happening in front of them because I've made my mind up. I've made my mind up. X isn't a good manager. Y isn't a good player. So no matter what happens, I can't be seen to be eating humble pie. I can't be seen to be changing. I'll go. Do you know what? I'll give you an opinion based on what I see. You know. Them guys have shown flashes, but that's what you'd expect from young lads coming in. And that for me is where maybe the transfer window we let Dan Crowley go, who was oven ready, but a key player.
yeah.
And
He
we didn't
impacted
bring any.
games, didn't he? He
Yeah, we
impacted games.
didn't bring anybody in who we could rely on to really come in and do a job between January and May. I'm not saying be Dan Crowley, but I'm saying we didn't. We've got Zach Johnson, untried, untested, Charlie Whittaker, untried, untested, Will Jarvis, largely untried, untested, and Mai Traore obviously never played football in England. So that is a bit of a gamble. It's a massive gamble. And at the minute, you'd say, and it's not quite paid off. I'm not saying it's a massive failure. I'm saying it's not quite paid off, I'm sure, as they might have hoped, allied to the injuries for other players that we've had. But that's where I am at the minute. But that doesn't mean to say I am fixed in that. Take it, Strauss said January was a failure. That's it, the end. No, no, no. At the minute, that's what it looks like. But we win the next 3 games, I'll quite happily change my mind and quite happily go, right, look, yeah, maybe the people that brought them in know more than me. They certainly know more than me, but could see it. They knew what was happening. Stewart's took a bit of time to get the best out of them, to get these combinations right, to get the belief into the players. It it doesn't just happen. They aren't just robots. And like I say, we will give them time. And I'll be honest in criticism and opinion, but also it's not set in stone. You get next game is another chance to move on an upward curve, if you like.
Only 3, says Chris Gosling, of the remaining 8 games kick off at Saturday 3 p.m. That kind of puts it into context, doesn't it? We were obsessed with getting the ball out wide, says Chris B. Without Jody, this has been an issue, as no other wing-back has impacted games enough. We've needed to adapt, but failed to. Martin Blaney, there doesn't feel like a buzz around the place, like with previous promotion-winning sides. Sam Draper, it's taken teams years to get out of this league, and we've definitely made progress since last season. Maybe it's just not our time yet. League One might be too much of a big step. But Chatwin, I think the staff changes have affected the team the most. Changing teachers halfway through your exams is massive. Stephen Shepherd, I do feel sorry for Stewart with the injuries and the loss of backroom staff and the witch hunt for his head every week. Andy Easom, I know his ship has sailed, but Cal Roberts is scoring freely again. Senga Schmidt says, I think Jarvis could be a big star for us in the future, getting better with every game. Martin Shipley, the injuries are occurring because the refs are letting so much bad tackling go unpunished this season. Chris Gosling goes on, the difference for us is the player of the season for the whole division last term has only managed something like 8 games this season. This would hurt most teams. Ian Hayward says possession-based football is costing us injuries, I would say, with some of the not so experienced opposition. Would really like to see, says Chris Gosling, Jarvis play as a 10. Think he could create and score playing in that role. I thought Will Jarvis should have played up front. Echo's fine leg. He has experience for that position when at Shelbourne. I feel Knott's performance against Crewe was an improvement, says Michael Fletcher. Can we up our levels? Yes, I think that we can. Updates on the Ivory Coast versus Gambia. Apparently, Alassania is on the bench. Long may he stay there for the remaining, is it 50 minutes of the game? Ivory Coast are 1-up, according to Flock. Gresham Maxwell, taking time off from my shirt collection. Top 7 is still decent progress, especially with the injuries and the backroom staff and the upheaval upstairs. Yeah, we're not mentioning them yet, Stel. Penalties. What did we make of Saturday?
Well,
2 key decisions. Neither of them went our way. Thoughts?
Well, I must admit, both of them in real time, I didn't think were penalties on the radio. I said on the radio, but having seen the footage afterwards, I think both of them were penalties. Yeah, I mean, the first one, Charlie Whittaker, which I think is, well, it's a definite penalty. But at the time, just one of them, and again, bearing in mind, I'm sat at the back of the Pavey stand towards, sort of halfway towards the cop end. It was a long way away, and you could tell he straight legged. You could see what was happening. Lovely little through ball from Didsey. He's going to get there. Keeper's coming out. You just as a striker think, right, if I just nick this, leave me leg there. He takes me leg, go down because I'm going away from goal. I'm not going to go round him and score. I'm nicking it away, getting contact. And he sort of straight legged it and went down. And from my vantage point, it looked like the keeper didn't really get anywhere near him. And when the referee pulled out the yellow card, I thought he's obviously got nowhere near him. Nick Richardson sat to my right-hand side, got a laptop that can get a delayed feed about 15, 20 seconds behind. And he's straight away got excited and turned it to me when the TV have maybe replayed a different angle. And you see the contact and you go, wow. I mean, yeah, it's a penalty. If there's contact there, it's a penalty. No, I didn't see it, but again, I'm 80 yards away, and it looked like he'd gone down looking for it. He was looking for it, don't get me wrong. Strikers don't have to get out of the way, I don't believe. People might say that's, not in the spirit of the game, but it's a professional game. If you can get contact, get a penalty, you do it. And he got contact, and to get a booking was the ultimate salt in the wound, really. So, yeah, it's a definite penalty, or should have been a definite penalty. But again, what I didn't see, I don't know what the referee's view of it was like, because again, from my view, 80 yards away, I wouldn't have given it. But again, my eyes, I'm not a referee either. And the second one, again, now that was down our sort of end in front of us, but we're side on. And it just looked like he tried to run in, Will Jarvis, done the right thing, gone at his man, but it just looked like modern day defending. I'm just going to stand across, almost obstruction in a way that you think, well, they sort of get away with it these days. That just get in your way and I'm running after the ball or whatever. And it's only when you saw the TV, again, because all the cameras were there, we saw different angles of it. So again, I thought in real time, yeah, it's a bit soft. You're not going to get a penalty for that. But then you see it and the lads put the arm out, as defenders do, but it's caught him across the throat, almost chin high, if you like. And, well, that is a foul anywhere else on the pitch. So again, should have been a penalty. But again, but what I would say is on that second one, the referee, you did see the referee's angle, and the referee is looking directly at it from an angle where he should have seen the arm come across. So he was certainly in a better position to give it than I would. Like I say on the radio, trying to be as impartial as possible, I thought neither of them were penalties in real time from my view. But seeing them again on the cameras, the first one was a penalty, definitely. But I can maybe say, the ref, maybe from his view, maybe saw it how I did. The second one, you can see the ref. He should see it. He should see it. And I think he probably bottles it a little bit because it's not, it's on the corner of the penalty area. It's not going through for a goal scoring opportunity. He's going to the byline. Yeah, I just wonder whether he's bottled the second one a little bit. Maybe he just didn't see it. I don't know. But yeah, just unbelievable frustration that we played better second half. Obviously, first half was terrible. You know, in terms of a game, it was a non-entity almost, apart from that penalty shout. But the second half, I thought we'd improved, and we were unlucky really not to get not to get all 3 points out of the game. Unlucky not to get at least one penalty, and a little bit unlucky. I don't think we created enough. But Didzy's shot that just grazed the post. Will Jarvis pulled a decent save out the keeper. George Abbott with a little toe poke that could have gone through the keeper's legs. So we were the team that deserved anything out of it. But again, sometimes when your luck's not in, your luck isn't in. So hopefully there's a backlash coming this Saturday.
Yeah. In real time, I thought the second one wasn't, because I didn't actually see the arm going across. But clearly, when you look at it, it is. First one, I was at the wrong end of the pavis to see it, but I did notice the ref was only about 15 yards away, and he looked to be in a very close proximity. So I kind of thought at the time, the ref's in a really good position. He must be certain that he has took a dive to give him a yellow. But it is one, and I've had this debate many times, Stan, and I'll be interested on your view on this. The key word whenever there is a foul in the penalty box: contact. Contact is a penalty. Contact is a penalty. He touched the leg. He did this. Contact, it's a penalty. As I understand it, football is a contact sport, not a non-contact sport. You jump for the ball, you touch, you brush, you'll use your arm, your elbow, shoulder barge. It's a contact sport. Yet we get ourselves into this position for penalties with the slightest touch, it's contact, it is a penalty. How does that work everywhere around the pitch?
Yeah, I think you've got to put it in context. I think as to when we're saying there's contact, I'm talking about with the keeper coming out, Charlie Whittaker's knocking it past him.
Yeah.
There, because the keeper's coming out with momentum.
Yeah.
I'm saying loads of force. I'm not saying it's bad, but if the keeper's coming one way, just as if it was the defender slide tackling, if you nick the ball away and there's any sort of contact on you, really, I'm not saying, you flicked a scab on your knee or something, right? But I'm talking any sort of discernible contact, then it's a foul anywhere on the pitch, and therefore it's going to be a penalty in the penalty area. I'm not talking about if you brush against somebody and fall down, there is, contact. Contact isn't the word in the law of the game. It's about a foul. So when I'm talking about contact, I'm talking about contact that is, if a defender slides in, and lunges at you, knock the ball past him and hurdle over him because you're going to be one-on-one with the keeper. You do that even if you get contact, you'll stay on your feet because you've got a chance to score. You're not looking for that to be a free kick. You'll stay on your feet. But if you do go down because of contact, it's a free kick because somebody's lunging in, somebody's sliding in, momentum. I'm not talking about just a defender with his hand over you or on it, touching you. So contact, no, that isn't. Contact in certain contexts. Yeah. So when it comes to a keeper coming out or a defender coming in to tackle, if they go to ground, which is essentially what they're doing, if they go to ground, they've got to get the ball. If they don't get the ball and they get the man, then that's a foul. By definition of a foul, that is a foul. So if it's a foul somewhere else on the pitch, it would be in the penalty area. And again, I think what went against Charlie Whittaker a little bit is that, again, as an ex-striker, we don't need to be an ex-striker to see it. You could see what was happening because we all knew he's trying to just nick the ball away. He's going away from goal. He's possibly not going to get on the end of his touch anyway. So you're going, here we go. Striker's going to chuck himself on the floor in a minute. He's going to get a touch and look for contact and go down, which is exactly the right thing to do, exactly what he did. The problem was the referee didn't see the contact. And you're right. He must have been absolutely certain there was no contact to book him for simulation. Yet the video showed that there was contact.
Yeah, I'm trying not to focus primarily on that incident because when you watch it back, it's a penalty. But you and I would both know, Stell, and clearly, if we had a goalkeeper, if we had Steve Cherry on this show now, I'd be interested. I'd be interested in Chez's view on this, right? That and I had this conversation with Howard Webb when he was at the MLS, and we were talking about this. Strikers perfect the art of leaving their foot or their toenail or whatever it is to put that foot in a slightly unnatural position to
Yeah.
make contact with the goalkeeper. Now, this is my point about contact isn't a penalty. And you've kind of like caveated it with context. But I do think that there are strikers out there in the leagues that perfect the art of moving their leg to the goalkeeper, yeah, and going
Absolutely.
down, and then they go contact. It's a penalty. I don't always think that contact automatically becomes a penalty award in the box, because
No,
contact itself it's a contact sport. It's a
yeah,
contact sport.
and again, it's back to context. You're absolutely right what you say. All strikers back at you, my day, we all did it. If you can win a penalty, a soft one, if you can see it coming. You can see if the keeper wants to go to ground and come out and lose control, thinking he's going to get the ball, all you've got to do is nick the ball past him. His momentum will come and make contact with whatever leg you leave in the way,
Yeah.
and then you go down. Now that's a foul. Whether keeper stay on your feet. I'm afraid. Thankfully, Steve Cherry ain't here. He'll give you a different answer, definitely. And every goalkeeper I've ever played with and against will give you a different answer to that.
Yeah,
But I'm
exactly.
sorry, but that is part of the game. I'm sorry if you go, oh well, the ethos is not right. The ethics of that, you should be. No, it's a professional sport. Win at all costs, pretty much. I'm afraid. And this is my bit about again being too nice in football sometimes. Now, we're not talking about that for Charlie Whittaker. He's done the right thing. He has done the right thing. And it is a skill. That ridiculous bit. It's just football has to change based on or evolve over time. The ridiculous bit where we had defenders defending with their hands held behind their own back because they were scared of giving a penalty away. Now,
Yeah.
although the handball rules are still a bit ambiguous and still a bit ridiculous, they've sort of gone away from that now and said, well, no, outside the normal shadow and natural position and all that sort of thing. Again, overly complicated. But for me, that's it. If defenders come out, goalkeepers come running out, if they commit themselves to a tackle, essentially a keeper is going for the ball, and if he doesn't get the ball because the defender's too quick and too intelligent, usually for goalies. Now, if defender's too clever and gets there too quick, and the keeper comes, he knows by going to ground. You say it about defenders. You go to ground, you're giving the referee a decision to make, aren't you? Well, that's exactly what goalkeepers are doing. Strikers aren't doing it. Strikers aren't getting up and saying, "Oh, I couldn't have stayed on my feet there." But they're going, "Do you know what? If I can win a penalty, and that's my best opportunity, rather than I'm not going to fall down if I've got an open goal to put it in. I'll stay on my feet. A couple of wildebeest won't get me on the floor then." But that's the professionalism. That is the mentality. Win at all cost. That is the mentality, I'm afraid, of football, rightly or wrongly, whether you like it or whether you don't. That is what it's there. If you can win a penalty and that's the best you can do, that's it. If you can score a goal, you don't want to win a penalty because you want to score the goal. But if winning a penalty is the best you can do in that situation, and bear in mind we're talking split second thinking, split second decisions,
Absolutely.
that's absolutely what you do because you want to win for your team. That's absolutely it. And defenders know that, goalkeepers know that, and that's why I've got no sympathy with them. Because obviously, as an ex-striker, I've been on the other end of it. But they know the rules. They know the game. When keepers used to come out with a set of six studs up, catching a ball where nobody's in contention, hoping that you put your mug on the end of their foot. Nobody was worried about that, was there? That was keeper's retribution. You can't touch a keeper anyway, so I mean they get all the protection in the world. So it should happen the other way. They know what they're coming into. They know what they're coming into, and I don't think any Notts fan would have any sympathy for the Crew goalkeeper at the weekend had that penalty been given. So he's come out, he's sold himself, and he hasn't got the ball, and he has got a bit of the man. So you Crew fans might argue, yeah, but it's not enough contact. He's left his leg there. He's done a straight leg to make sure he's got contact. Absolutely. But again, all that ever matters is the referee's decision, and it didn't go our way. But when you look at it again on the footage, I think everybody, even Crew fans, might say, "Oh, we got away with one." or
Yeah,
two with the second one.
It's a really interesting debate, and I do tend to have some sympathy with referees. In terms of the judgment in a box tends to be contact among fans. I'm not sure it's as straightforward as that, but look, and just to clarify, when you look back at the video, both of those are penalties in the modern game, in my book. But I can kind of see the first one. Like I say, he must have been absolutely convinced from 15 yards out that there wasn't contact, because he would not have booked him otherwise. He would not have booked him. So it's a bit bizarre. And it is, of course, so frustrating given what's happened in previous games with Crewe and contentious refereeing decisions.
Yeah.
We seem to be on the very thin end of the wedge. We're just going to wrap up now. But I just want a very quick hands on keyboard. Final finishing position for us this season, and we'll take a snap straw poll from the flock. So off you go. In we go. Where do you think we're going to finish come 5 o'clock after a 3 o'clock kickoff, a rare one against Doncaster? Right, here we go. This will give us some semblance. Right, bloody hell, hang on, my eyes are going. Right, Bud Chatwin, 4th. Martin Shipley, 3rd. Ray Newton, 7th. The Philly Polly Pippi, 6th. Ian Haywood, 3rd. Chris Gosling, 6th. Rochi Bell, 4th. Colin Scott changes the subject. Kedwin's dad. Penalty check now in England game for keeper on forward. Just what you've been talking about. PJ Defiance, 4th. Ian Cooksey, oh dear, he's a glass empty man. Stell, 9th. Gasoline, 3rd. Dale Pike, 4th. Dave Hawkshaw, 3rd. Martin Blaney, 7th. Tim Lynham, 7th. Bud Chatwin, 3rd. Stephen Shepherd, 6th. Essie Kent, 3rd. Stephen Knighton, 6th. Greza Maxwell, 6th. And 3 boxes of broken biscuits for the dodgy Wembley cushion behind me. 3rd, Stephen Newton. 3rd, Steve Carter. 5th, A.D. Clark. 4th, Mark Williams. 3rd, Karen Knight. 4th, Philip Brown. 5th, Fine Leg. 4th, Jurgen Harrigan. 5th, Lindy Lou. Duncan Comrie, 3rd on 79 points. If nothing else, though, that proves there are still people listening to us in the closing stages of this programme.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as a bit of an average, I think we're in the playoffs according to all that, don't we? If we average it all out.
Yeah, looking at it, I think the highest was 3rd, so no one has got us finishing 2nd. And I think only one has got us finishing outside of the playoffs. The Filippi Olilippi, I've had another go at it. It was a fair attempt at my username. 5th, says Graham Oates. Gazali, where do you think, Paul? I knew this was coming. I was going to ask Stell first. Okay, where do I think? I think 6th. I think we'll be where we are. I was saying to Stell before the show. We've got how many points at the minute, Stell? 60?
62.
62. I think we get 12 more points from our last 8 games and finish on 75 points and 6th. Stell?
Well, 12 more points is 74, but
I've got A-level maths, you know.
I don't know if I'm the Rachel Riley to your whoever's presenting it there. I don't know. So I would say at the minute I can't be any more optimistic than saying 5th.
Right. Okay.
Right, because of the form, but capable of finishing 3rd. I do tend to think that maybe top 2, we've just shot ourselves in the foot a little bit for that. I think 3rd is available, but I'm not going to stick my neck out to that. I'll say 5th as we are now, but like I say, win Saturday, and I'll be saying we'll be winning the league again. I think Walsall play Wimbledon. Is that the game this weekend? So first v 3rd, Walsall, Wimbledon. So again, it's going to look as different again after this weekend, and this is the way it's going to be. And like I say, roller coaster, ups, downs, but hopefully 3 points at the weekend.
Yes. Chris Gosling says, Stell is Rachel Riley. I am Rachel Reeves. Now then, but I can categorically state I have not accepted any free tickets for Notts County games, home or away, this season. Okay, just to clear that one up, Chris. 8 straight wins, says Martin Shipley. Let's finish on a high, and we're up. 8 straight wins, Stell. Obviously, I'm not going to do the arithmetic. How many points does that give us?
That's 86. And if we get to that, we'll be up and we'll all perform a song and dance live on this at the end of the season.
Absolutely. On that note, let's finish on a positive. 86 points, Martin Shipley. We're going up as champions. Right, Newport on Saturday. We'll be heading down to Wales. Reminder again, Lee Hughes live, Thursday, May the 1st. It's a tenner. Doors open 7 o'clock. It will be warmer, I can categorically state. If it's cold, we will supply you with blankets. All right. For those of you entrepreneurs out there and businesses, we've got some tables of 10 at the front, 200 quid, and you can eat as much pizza as you want on them and get table service for your beers. So if you can put it through the old VAT and reclaim that on the business, £200 for a table of 10, and you will get to meet Hughesy before the show or at halftime of the show. So thank you very much indeed for the banter, the messages, and the chat tonight. We should be back next Monday. We will. Stel, thank you ever so much indeed, as always, for your contribution.
Yeah. Pleasure, Paul. No problem. Keep the faith, everybody.
Yeah, I'm still not under. You've explained it better than a lot of other people to me about contact in penalty boxes, but I still maintain if we get Sam Slocum or Steve Cherry on, there will be a vastly different interpretation to the one you've come up with.
There'll be a completely different interpretation, but it's like anything. Strikers find it difficult to stand up in a penalty area. If somebody touches them out and about on the street, you'll find they're a bit more nimble-footed. They'll be able to take a bit more of a knock. But look, that's the game. Again, that is the game, and that's part of it. And the dark arts, or whatever you want to call it, but that's the bit strikers have in their favour where they can do that. Defenders get to kickers and elbowers and do all that sort of stuff. Keepers do the same. So if we can get one over on them, bad time.
Absolutely. The debate will continue, I am sure. And I'll tell you one thing, there will be more contentious penalty shouts for Notts between now and the end of the season, most probably at Newport. And let's hope we're on the right end of the decisions for once. Thank you again. Thank you to our official partners, JH Accountants and the Big Shed at the Trent Navigation. Look forward to catching up with you all next week. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.